Right. Introduction to assignment 1 then, and I'll record this for prosperity. So, it is Electrical Power and Drive Systems assignment 1. The assignment title is Investigate and Critically Analyse Methods of AC and or DC Motor Control for a given engineering application. It's issued today, 7th of October, due in on Wednesday the 4th of November. Okay, all our hand-ins except dissertation is 23:59, and I always do them on the day of attendance. Our students seem to like having that last minute chat with the tutor before going home and doing that last little polish and handing it in about 11 o'clock at night or whatever they do. Okay, so that's how we do it, and that always seems to work for us. Okay. With regard to the term critical analysis, what I tend to find isn't done as well by people who don't get such good grades as they don't provide about what's called a balanced argument between two things they're trying to make a decision on. I tend to focus on what the advantages are of the one they like and what the disadvantages of the ones they don't like, not providing a balanced argument for both. So that's just something to be aware of, is that you've got to, everything's got some disadvantages and you mustn't brush over them. You've got to provide this, you've got to be critical of both sides as well as praising both sides before you make a reasoned decision about something. And that's the best way to describe being critical, I think, in my opinion. A lot of this is going back to the brief we used to have when things were handed in paper, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. You have no need to include any kind of front page on your piece of work with regard to that anymore. It's handed in online. By handing it in, you are effectively declaring that it is your own work, and it is checked for plagiarism. There's an automatic check on it when you hand it in. On the second page, it's not that visible, but this is the grading matrix. So I'm going to zoom in on that a little bit and just look. I'm going to look down the line of second upper, or 2-1 as we call it, and first. There's three general areas I'm grading you on here. They're in this left-hand column over here. Research and analysis of two different motor and speed control systems. Second thing is your critical analysis of the advantages and disadvantages of two different motor drive systems for use in variable speed pumping applications. And then the overall presentation, quality of background reading and referencing used. Okay. For those of you that weren't here last year, Tom and Luke, we used the Harvard system of referencing. Okay. There is some help around. If you're struggling, fire me an email and I'll point you in the right direction. Okay? It's an author date system, and I've got some examples I can put in front of you if you need help. Okay? If you look down these columns, it's difficult sometimes to describe what the difference is between a piece of work that gets a first and one that gets a 2-1, but you as a marker you just know. And the way I like to try and describe it is 2-1, excellent level of research and analysis, an excellent analysis of all the key advantages and disadvantages. That student's done everything you might have expected given what you've taught them and what you thought you were going to get when you wrote the question. Yeah? Distinction or first at bachelor's level is that student's gone beyond where I thought it was possible to go with this, or they've come up with something that just says they've really researched this. They've looked deep and they've found another angle. They've gone beyond where I would have expected them to go. Yeah? That's the sort of thing that means you go from there to there. If you look down this line, very good level, we're looking, yeah, you're approaching that, but there are some little bits missing. There's some gaps in there. If we go down to third, you're okay. There's a bit of critical analysis, but there's significant gaps in your work, but it covers the learning outcomes. And you only go into refer if there's holes all over the place, and I can't honestly say that you've covered the learning outcomes for that piece of assessed work. Alright? So it's worthwhile looking in that grading matrix and getting some idea what level you need to achieve in each of those three areas to get your best mark. Alright, and I have to say, emphasis on your overall mark for that will be on the bit that says at level 6, critical analysis. That's where you're going to argue a decision. So this bit is largely descriptive in what you can find out about those two systems. And this one is you analysing that and applying it to something else. So that's where the biggest part of your markers are going to come from. Right? Moving down the page. So this assignment, traditional in industrial pump applications to size of pump and motor combination to a given maximum flow or delivery rate that includes a factor of safety for variations in demand. So you aren't going to design a system that will only just deliver the flow rate that you want, you're going to over specify. What they're saying in not so many words. This method then involves the actual delivery or flow rate being controlled through the use of valves to throttle the rate of fluid flow. So you control the opening and closing of an automated valve to get the flow rate you want, leaving the driving motor to run at its full speed and full rate of power. With the current worldwide emphasis on energy saving becoming increasingly common for fluid pumping systems to be driven by a variable speed motor and pump combination so that the pump can deliver the desired flow rate with the motor running at lower speeds. This method introduces some savings in terms of energy used to drive a motor. Yeah. For this assignment, you're required to research and analyse two different motor speed control systems for use in variable speed pumping applications. Okay. You've got 1,000 words here. It's not very many to cover two pumping systems and apply it to an application. So you're going to have to be really good at restricting and getting to the point. Okay. I will say words in tables don't count. That doesn't mean put everything in a table so none of them count. Okay. You can put additional work in appendices or additional supporting information in appendices, but you've got to be careful about what supporting information is. Certainly shouldn't be any analytical content in appendices. I should be sent to a page number that follows on from the page numbers in the normal report, not be separately numbered. If I can't go to your page reference and find what you're directing me to, it won't get read. Yeah? So I know I will be talking about in the last thing, be talking about your document not being the easiest to navigate, which it should be. I should be able to navigate around in it with you directing me where I need to, backwards or forwards in the document and to appendices. Alright? So part 1, you are going to analyse the operation speed control of the following two motor types: AC induction motors and switched reluctance motors. So what I'm saying there is basis of how they work. We've already talked through how AC induction motors work in the last week and how they're speed controlled. So some of that information is there, right? Please go out and research AC inductive motors. Don't reference my lecture slides, please. Not the best thing to do. Go out and find some independent stuff that supports what you say about induction motors, and go out there and see what you can find that will describe how switch reluctance motors work and how they could be speed controlled as well, to a similar level to what I've shown you. Make good use of diagrams. That will reduce the number of words you need to use. Okay? The analysis will focus on the basic operation of each drive, how the control of the motor speed is achieved, and the torque speed characteristics of the motor. Yeah. So that's part one. Part two is the nitty-gritty part, because that's where you're going to apply that to a particular application. For the second part of the report, to critically analyse the advantages and disadvantages of each of the motor speed control applications from part one in terms of their use for variable speed pumping applications. Your analysis should focus on the costs involved in installation, the ongoing maintenance, as well as the potential energy savings of each motor type. Yeah? So I'm looking, I don't necessarily expect you all to say the same one is the best, because there ain't no right answer really, or wrong answer. There's what you think backed up by what you've read. That's what study at level 6 is about. Even in engineering, there isn't always that absolute one right answer. Okay? Because it depends on what emphasis you put on money saving, what emphasis you put on how maintainable you want it to be, you know, and your work focus might vary, even with just these 4 people in this room. Alright? So, very rarely do we get any set of 4 or 5 assignments on these modules that are exactly the same in nature. I do find bits of them, sometimes bits of information are the same, but they do go down completely different roads. Alright? So that is what you're being asked to do here. It's only 1,000 words. You're allowed to go 10% over. So general requirements, you must comply with these when you're writing your report. Should be up to 1,000 words in length, plus or minus 10%. So effectively you've got 1,100. You should include a word count at the end of the document before the reference list, which is not counted. So your list of references doesn't count in the word count. Body of the report, but nothing in tables, not words on diagrams don't count. I want you to put a word count in. Okay? Please be aware that the word count policy means that anything written beyond the specified number of words will not be read and not graded. What that effectively means is if you use 1,400 words and your conclusion at the end is 300 words, your conclusion ain't going to get read. That's going to severely affect your mark. Might even mean you get referred. Right, so there's no direct grading criteria on writing to a word count. It's just that part of your report won't get read if you go over. That's what the policy says. Okay? Your report should be written in Times New Roman or Arial. Point size 12, 1.5 line spacing. Make it look nice. Okay? You're not going to print anything, so it don't matter about wasting paper. It's only virtual paper. Ensure that you reference all sources using the Harvard referencing system. Ensure all diagrams are numbered and correctly labelled, and you refer to the diagram by its figure number or table number. So I don't like the table above, the table of a page, because sometimes from writing that to actually formatting the page they move around. So give them proper titles, using the word facility to give whatever it is, the table or the figure, a caption. If you don't know how to do that, then ask and I can show you. I'm sure you do. Appendices may be used for additional support material, but should not include analytical content. They should be page numbered in sequence with the main report, so don't start a new set of page numbers for each appendices. It makes them difficult to find. Alright, and referred to by the page number in your report. I would say that if an appendix isn't referred to, shouldn't be there. So if you haven't mentioned Appendix 3 in the body of your report, why is it there? I certainly aren't going to read it. And that, you know, you might add some additional information in there, but your main evidence that supports your argument should be up in the main report. Okay, is there any questions about what I'm expecting you to do for that assignment? You know, and each week there's the opportunity to let me know how you're getting on and ask me questions, and please take the opportunity, if you can, to get a draft in. Even if you've only written 500 words at draft deadline day, stuff it in. Get some comment on what you've done so far. I can't worsen your grade to get comment on it. Even if I say that's completely the wrong thing, that'll have some effect on your grade, because you'll then go out and have another go and hopefully do it better. So it's always worthwhile handing in draft copies. That's what I'm going to go with, yeah, because if I leave drafts, traditionally I've always given 3 weeks for an assignment. Since the electronic handing, I've had less issues over people wanting extensions and not having work in on time. The old paper handing used to naturally get, well, I won't be here next week, Mike, can I hand it in the week after? So that's almost an extension by default. I effectively, by the way, can't give you an extension now. You have to apply online for one. I get asked whether you're allowed to have it or not, but it's a more formal thing than it ever was. Okay, so because of the tighter regime of electronic handing, I think 4 weeks is good. You can then have 2 weeks to do some preliminary work, hand it in and get some comment on a draft, and then that gives me a good week if I need it. I try and do it quicker, but at least a week to get it back to you with you still having time to do some more work on it. All right? Yeah? Just stop.